The comments heard on The View from A Pew are those of Mac McCoy and are not necessarily the opinions of his guests, his producer Garth, any one particular denomination or religion, the church lady, Mr. Lemke, Pastor Craig, or anyone else of sound mind and body. Now, here is today's The View from A Pew, heard all around the world on YouTube. Just search for The View from A Pew.
Welcome back to The View from A Pew. My thanks to the folks over at The Chosen, Dallas and his crew, for allowing us to use the theme song from The Chosen as one of our songs that we play, or we call them bumper songs or bumper music in the industry. But we want to thank the folks from The Chosen. If you have never watched The Chosen, I would encourage you to do so. There are some people who will tell you, well, this isn't in the Bible, so it's not true to the Bible. You won't find that. Now, what you will find is perhaps a conversation that Jesus has with someone that isn't documented in one of the Gospels. But that doesn't mean that that conversation didn't happen. But you watch The Chosen. Tell us yourselves what you think of it. You can reach out to us at MAC, M-A-C like macaroni, at theviewfromapew.com. My co-host today is Gary Hutchens from Sunny Slope Church of Christ. Sundays, 9:30 Bible study, 10:30 service, 6 p.m. on Sunday night, also a get-together and service, and then Wednesday a service and some Bible studies at 6:30. And if you want to know more, go to churchofchrist.com. Is that right?
Churchofchrist.com, yes.
Yeah. You don't have to / Omaha or anything like that. They own that URL. So, and everything that you offer to people is always free.
Absolutely. They can sign up for our podcasting right there on our website, and it will be automatic. Everything that we podcast, which is a whole lot of Bible teaching every week, they will receive it automatically to their smartphone or computer or whatever smart device they choose, and it will always be free.
Good. All right. Today is the 9th of May, and so we are on a Thursday right before Mother's Day. So we're trying to be a little timely, but we know that you may be listening or watching this show weeks from now, months from now, years from now. But today we are talking about, what does the Bible say about a godly wife and mother? And you've got some great Bible verses that you pulled out of Proverbs on this.
Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 through 31. It's interesting how the book of Proverbs is exactly that. It is a book of a compilation of a whole lot of Proverbs that God, through the Holy Spirit, guided Solomon to write down. And so a lot of times when you're reading through the Proverbs, people may have a hard time kind of following, because it might be one verse touches on a subject and the next verse is a completely different subject. Or maybe you might have 2 or 3 verses and then the next verse switches to something else, but it's all a compilation of Proverbs. But the 31st chapter is different.
I just want to stop you for a second.
Sure.
What does the word Proverbs mean?
A good rule of thumb, a good principle to live by, to focus upon.
Okay, all right. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I know somebody else out there is as ignorant as I am on some things, so I wanted to ask that.
No, that's good. But the 31st chapter of Proverbs, beginning with verse 10 and going all the way to the end through verse 31, is focusing upon a godly wife and a godly mother. And so it's all one basic context of Scripture. And it's really good. So I'm afraid in our culture, in our country right now, we're losing focus on, first, godliness in general. But then when it comes to specific applications of a godly husband, a godly man, a godly woman, a godly wife, a godly mother, and as you said, Mother's Day in our country is coming up in just a few days.
Yep.
So I thought it would be good for us to focus on this. So when you look at verse 10, as you read last time, and the New King James translation says, who can find a virtuous wife? Now, what does that word virtuous mean? I think we've gotten to where in our culture that we almost look down on the word virtue. or a virtuous wife or a virtuous man or a virtuous woman. I think we've almost made that a negative word in our mindset. And how horrible that is. How the devil has really been effective in changing our minds about what is good and what is evil. Scriptures even talk about that. Woe to him who calls evil good and good evil. You know, but virtue, it talks about moral goodness and propriety, and it includes just simply goodness in general. Then when you drop to verses 11 and 12, a loving husband, and understand, it goes both ways. We could put these principles down and say, yeah, that applies to the husband and the father as well. And so a loving husband can confidently trust in a godly wife, a virtuous wife. And she, in turn, can trust in him. And that's important. Verse 13, she willingly joins in the work of taking care of her home and family. And in this particular text, and their culture in that day as to marriage and so on, was somewhat different than what we're used to today. It was often a situation where the wife worked side by side in the field with her husband, is the impression I get from reading the Old Testament scriptures. But she's known for her industrious qualities. She's trying to help things happen that's positive and good and productive within the home and within the family. And so she joins in the work. Now, we have gotten to a point where it probably in the pretty large majority of cases of families in our country, it's virtually a necessity that the wife and mother works outside the home just to provide enough of an income for the family to be able to function effectively.
Yeah, I think it's one of the worst mistakes we've made in the 20th century is when you got to go to work.
Yeah.
You covet this, you covet this, you covet this, which may be okay, but I was fortunate to be able to allow my wife to stay home with the kids for a few years. Big difference.
Oh, yeah. It is a big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
The things that I could not have accomplished if I was the stay-at-home father. This is a motherly love.
Yeah. And verse 25, notice, what it says, strength and honor are her clothing. Well, of course, those are, illustrative and symbolic terms, but it speaks to her character. Strength and honor are her clothing. What a testament to her character. Could you think of anything that could be, or very many statements on a tombstone, an epitaph to a woman you read, strength and honor were her clothing. Could hardly anything be said that would be more gracious and impressive about that woman who is now, her body is lying in that grave.
Yeah.
When you come to verse 26, her speech is tempered with wisdom and kindness. You've probably heard, I have, in public, I have heard mothers with their little children yell at them right out loud. I mean, loud for people to hear from a long distance around, and maybe even curse them or use profane language in supposedly correcting them. Well, now, how do you think those kids are going to grow up?
Yeah.
They're going to emulate
Right.
that kind of behavior that they learn from their mother. Verse 27, she is not idle. She actively watches over her home. She sees that, now, and I've said this for many years, I think, again, our culture kind of looks down to a great extent on a stay-at-home mom, as you talked about. And my first wife, who's deceased, she was a stay-at-home mom most of the time when our kids were growing up. But a stay-at-home mom, you talk about a job.
Oh, good heavens.
That is work.
Yeah.
But she's not idle. She actively watches over her home. And what greater reward could a wife and mother receive in this world than what's said in verse 28? Her children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. What a great statement.
Yeah.
What a great statement of her character. Her children recognize her to be blessed. And to be blessed to be under her care and her tutelage and her rearing, and her husband for her. He doesn't have to worry about trusting her. It's an automatic.
Yeah.
He knows he can trust her, and he has
She's
full
earned that.
trust in her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Well, in verse 30, I just want to get to this quick. Outward appearance is secondary. I've often looked at couples whom I've known, or just couples I've observed walking around down the street or in a mall or sitting in a restaurant, and I've thought, and it goes both ways. I've known couples where maybe the husband is slim and trim, and he's has a really good, handsome appearance, and he's married to a woman who is real heavy, maybe even obese. But then I've seen the same thing. You've got a really beautiful young woman, and she's married to a man who has let himself go.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered, how did those two attract? How did they attract? Well, of course, maybe they've been married a long time, and physical appearances changed over years. But it comes down to this again, what's brought out in verse 30. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. And so it's the old saying, beauty is skin deep, but ugly goes all the way to the bone.
Yep.
And so couples, as they come together, they recognize not just physical appearance, they recognize the inward beauty, the inward character, and especially when a mother is godly. When a mother is godly, that's going to come out in their life.
Pastor Gary Hutchens from Sunny Slope Church of Christ is here. Their services are Bible study at 9:30 on Sunday, service at 10:30, 6 o'clock that evening they reconvene for some family time and study, and then Wednesday 6:30. I wish we had a one of these godly women in our studio right now, and
Yeah.
I should have done that, because two men sitting here talking about what a godly woman is. Remember, we're coming out of the Bible here. We're not putting our opinion in this. This is what Solomon wrote in the book of Proverbs, and it's chapter 31, starting with 10. So I don't want, and I think people have listened to us enough to know that, we don't put people down and we don't put ourselves up. And
Well, okay, two men sitting here, we do have a perspective on this subject because we've both been married. We've both been raised, by mothers. I remember the story goes about a gospel preacher. He was addressing a class to a whole bunch of prospective gospel preachers. They were in training. And as he stood behind the class lectern, he said, "Some of the best years of my life have been spent in the arms of another man's wife." And then, of course, got everyone's attention. And then he said, "That woman was my mother." Well, what a great statement.
yeah,
What a great statement.
Yeah.
The way she lives, I've said this a number of times about my wife. She has made me a better man.
absolutely.
She has made me a better man.
Yeah.
Now think about Hannah when she goes in prayer to God. She is barren. And oh, how she wants to have a son for her husband. And she goes to God in prayer, "Please give me a man-child, and I'll give him back to you." And she was at that point dedicating that son she's praying for to God. And she does exactly that. When he reaches a certain age, she brings him to the high priest and turns him over to him.
Really?
To serve God. Oh, yes. Yes, to serve God. And he becomes a prophet, a teacher. And so she's brought him out of the home, turned him over to his mentor now. And think about that Shunammite woman. And there's a great hymn, "It is well with my soul."
Oh, yeah.
That focuses on that mother.
Yep.
And again, she has just gotten to the point in her married life that she has resigned in her mind to the fact she's never going to have children.
Yeah.
And then, but she's a godly woman, and so she tells her husband, "This man of God keeps coming. and Elijah or Elisha. I keep getting the two mixed up in my head. And she says, look, he keeps traveling through here. Why don't we build a room on our house to provide him lodging when he's coming this way, so he can have a place to come in and sit down and be comfortable and sleep, at night and eat. And so her husband goes along with that. And so, God's prophet comes and he says, well, he's impressed. And he asks, what can we do for this couple? What can we do for this woman? And so his servant says, she has no children. And so he tells her, you're going to have a child. You're going to have a son. And she says, imagine the emotion now.
Yeah.
She says, don't play with me.
Yeah.
Don't mess with my head.
Yeah.
She's already resigned herself to the fact she's going to be barren. And he says, no, this is going to be a blessing from God. So she has that son. And imagine how she cherishes that son.
Oh, yeah.
And as he's getting a little bit older, one day he's out in the field with his father, and probably hot. And I don't know, the text doesn't tell us, did he have a sunstroke or what? But he falls ill in the field. And so the father brings him to his mother, and she holds him, and he dies in her lap. And what does she do? She doesn't curse God at all. She calls for a servant to prepare, I forget if it was a horse or a camel or a donkey or whatever, and she says, let's go to the man of God. And someone asks her, what's wrong? Yeah, it will be well. And so, Elijah, he sees her coming in a distance. He doesn't know what's going on. He sends his servant out to meet her. Is everything well? Is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with the child? She said it will be well. She tells the servant, let's go. Don't spare speed up. Go as fast as we can. She gets to Elijah, and then he comes. She tells him what it is, what has happened, and he comes, and God through him raises her son. Can you imagine now the emotion? But that whole scenario revolves around a mother, a wife first, and then a mother who believed in God, trusted in God, revered God, served God, a godly wife, a godly mother. And that really falls back into this text from Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 through 31. A godly wife, a godly mother. How we need those characters, those women in our country right now and around the world.
My co-host today is Pastor Gary Hutchens from Sunny Slope Church of Christ. 9:30 and 10:30 are Bible study and services on Sunday, and then at 6 p.m. they gather again. Wednesday, 6:30 in the afternoon or in the early evening for Bible study, as well as some classes, or some prayer. And if you want to check them out, you can go to their website, which is churchofchrist.com, and everything that Gary and his congregation do, they give it away. They give it all back to you, so you can get pod sites and sermons and things like that if you just go to churchofchrist.com. When we come back for our last segment here before Mother's Day, you wrote a paper that is entitled, What Happened to Our Respect for Motherhood? And you're going to share that with us when we come back.
Yeah, in a kind of a capsulized way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Mac McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. We love this job. We love our ministry, and we couldn't do it without you. Like your feedback, what would you like the blank to be? What does the Bible say about blank? If there's something you'd like, just email it to us, Mac, M-A-C, like macaroni, at theviewfromapew.com.
Divine Truth Christian Store, where you'll find more